Now, in our discussion today, we are talking about cells and discipleship and the role of cells in discipleship. You have all been through cell groups, you have all journeyed there, you have been discipled through cells, and now you are pastors of pastors. Now, how would you describe maybe your journey as a disciple? How would you describe possibly your time in the cell group and how that has nurtured you and caused you to be raised up to the position or to the person that you are today?
Yeah, when I think about my journey, really everything that really happened in my life happened in the cell groups, And I think that that's so true. I think when Jesus came and he walked on the earth, the biblical pattern he gave to us is a pattern of discipleship. And discipleship clearly does not happen, just on a weekend service, where people gather together for meetings and all as a congregation. But discipleship happens best in smaller groups. Jesus himself had 12 men with him, and he walked with them, he spent time with them, did ministry with them, corrected them in their lives. And that's what happened for me personally in cell group, and with the people that are around me, the correction that happened, the things that I had to learn how to respond. And this is the process of discipleship for me. So it really was a crucial aspect of my development as a believer.
I can fully identify with what Pastor Lee said because it's the same for me. I responded to the Salvation Altar Call in Cornerstone, but really it was what took place after that. I was introduced to a cell group, introduced and integrated into community. That was where discipleship really took place. That was where transformation took place, and I've seen that in my cluster as well. The people who had come in, they were not sure how to mature, how to grow, but in a cell group context, that's when they found friends, they found community, and they realized, hey, discipleship has to be intentional.
I agree that discipleship has to be intentional. At the same time, I've always wondered, as the church goes bigger, which we will, how do we stay connected and be personal? Because that's really who we are. And cell group is the key, because in cell group, one of the things I've learned is accountability. As I go through tough times and times where I need to support stress, who do you turn to? These are the people in the cell group. I've learned a lot in cell group. I learned to be real, I learned to be myself. As iron sharpens iron, sometimes there are blind spots in my life, and who will be there to talk to me, tell me about this? And the people in the cell group, the closest, the ones that I build relationship with, are the ones that will tell me about these things.
I remember I first came to Cornerstone 20 years ago as a young person, was through cells, and before I even came to church for service. And as a shy, super high introverted young boy, I realized that I didn't know what to expect, and I was wondering how people would perceive me with my baggages. But I found out that actually cell is a very warm and welcoming and accepting environment. So in my 20 years here, I realized that hey, sometimes people might have this sense of, don't know what to expect, if I come to cell, I have to be vulnerable to form relationships, to open up my life. But I really believe, that cell is actually a very safe and welcoming, accepting environment.
One of the things that cell has really taught me was to really love one another. So one time a lady came into our cell, she was pretty violent. And a lot of our cell members, they really didn't know how to react to her, how to love on her. But I think everyone really made an effort. They started to meet her regularly, brought her out for lunch and dinners, pray with her. And you can see a real transformation started to happen on this lady. And her life was really changed. But I think more than that, I think our cell members' lives were changed too. They learn how to love like Jesus did, and I think that's the most powerful thing about cells, where we begin to do what Christ has asked us to do, to really reach out to the lost.
All right, hearing from each of you and from your perspective and your takeaways from cells, it appeared that it has been very well for you. But there are people who are truly afraid to be in cells, and I think it's fears that holds them back, from wanting to join a cell group. Like you shared, each one of you said it's a time for intentional relationships to be made, and sometimes we are afraid because we don't want to open our lives. And oftentimes we talk about, meeting people that we are uncomfortable with. And I think from cells we learn how to be compassionate, the takeaway from one of you was that it taught you accountability. And it's true, sometimes we all don't want to be accountable, but it is really great to have someone to watch over your shoulders. It's great to have someone to watch over your backs. And I think that these are things that we all learn as a believer, and this is the whole process of discipleship. So I can safely say that looking at every one of you, you have turned out excellently well. And discipleship is always a good outcome. And you know, God loves that of His children. And He says to all of us, go into all the nations, make disciples of all nations. I think this is something that every believer should be a part of.